In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to knit. And if you're a beginner knitter, the first place to start is with your yarn. I'm going to start by showing you how to cast on. So to cast on, you need to grab the yarn and make a slip knot, which is your first stitch on your needle. So you want to pinch and create a loop between your fingers and then twist. And then you're going to put your thumb through that loop and then pull the yarn over your finger through that loop. And that makes a slip knot. Now that's all ready to go onto your needles, and in this video I'm using circular needles, which means that my needles are attached with a cable between them. You can use flat needles, it's a personal preference and depends on the project that you're using or that you're following, but in this video I'll show you with circular needles because a lot of our projects use them. So we're going to put the slip knot, which is our first stitch, onto our needle, and we're going to put it on our left hand needle. So when you put it on, you want to pull the longer yarn, the yarn that's attached to your ball, and that will make the slip knot come against your needle, but you don't want to make it too tight, just snug, so it can still move up and down. We're then going to take our right hand needle and we're going to insert it from left to right into the stitch, and then we're going to take the longer yarn, the yarn that's attached to our ball, and we're going to wrap it round the right hand needle anti-clockwise. Once we've done that, we're going to do the tricky bit, which is to pull it through the other loop that's on the needle. And so we do this by pulling it towards the front, and then we place the stitch onto the needle. And then we're going to just keep repeating that along the row until we have the right number of stitches. So pulling that loop through the front, and so you can see from the back there how I'm doing it, and then placing it onto the needle. And now we have 3 stitches, so each loop is a stitch. And the instructions on the Made and Worn website say to cast on 14. We're going to keep repeating that along the row until we have 14 stitches on our needle. When we've got all our stitches on the needle, it's time to move on to our first row. And we do this by pressing next on the Made and Worn website. And now it's time to knit your very first stitches. So the first instruction is to knit all stitches. And to knit is actually quite simple. So what we want to do is place the yarn at the back, and then we want to insert the needle from left to right, just as we did for casting on, wrap the yarn anti-clockwise, pull it through, but this time instead of putting the loop on the needle, we want to slide that loop off the left hand needle so that we end up with one loop on our right hand needle and the remaining stitches on our left hand needle. And we're just going to repeat that motion, so in from left to right, wrap the yarn anti-clockwise, pull it through to the front and then lift it off at the back. So in from left to right, wrap anti-clockwise through to the front and then take it off the back on the left hand needle. And we'll just keep repeating that. Because it says knit all stitches, that means we're going to knit all of the stitches from the left hand needle over to the right hand needle. You keep following these steps until you've moved all of your stitches from the left hand needle to the right hand needle. Each time that you move your stitches from the left hand needle to the right hand needle, you complete a row. You can then press next on the Made in One website and it will give you the next row to follow. To start your next row, you need to turn the work. So you need to take your knitting from your right hand and move it to your left, rotating it as you do this. And you'll find that now you're in the right position to do your next row. So the next row in our swatch instruction is to knit all stitches. So we'll repeat the actions that we did before. So in from left to right, wrap anti-clockwise through and off the back. And we're going to do that all the way across this row until we get to the end. Now that you've mastered the knit stitch, it's time to master purling. Purling is slightly different to knitting, but the same action applies. So rather than going from the left to right, you'll be going right to left. So our next row is knit 2, purl 10, knit 2. So we do 2 knit stitches, and then we do 10 purl stitches, and then 2 knit stitches. So start with the 2 knit stitches. So in from left to right, wrap anti-clockwise through to the front and take it off the back. And then repeat that again for the second stitch. And it's really important when you change from knitting to purling that you bring your yarn to the front. So bring your yarn to the front of your right hand needle, and then we're going to insert our needle, our right hand needle. We're going to insert our right hand needle from right to left this time. So right to left, and then we're going to wrap anti-clockwise again, and then we're going to pull it through towards the back and then slip that off at the front. So in from right to left, round anti-clockwise, then through towards the back, and then slip that stitch off the front. And we keep repeating that until we've done 10 purl stitches. At the end of our purl stitches, we're going to do 2 knit stitches. So we have to move our yarn to the back of the work. So as we moved it to the front for purling, we need to move it to the back for knitting. And it's really important to do this, otherwise you can end up creating extra stitches. Once you've learnt how to knit and purl, you can knit most patterns. Just keep following the instructions to finish your swatch until you get to the last row, where it's time to cast off. Here I've finished my swatch and I'm on my cast off row, and the cast off row says cast off all stitches. All you need to do is knit a stitch and then knit a second stitch. So just as we did before, knit 2 stitches, and then what we're going to do is use our left hand needle this time to go in the front of the first stitch and then slip it over the top, leaving the second stitch on the needle. And then that's 1 stitch cast off. So to cast off another one, we then knit the next stitch, and then again with the left hand needle, we go in the front and then we take it over the top, leaving the previous stitch on the needle. And we keep going along until we have just 1 stitch left. When you get to your last stitch, what you're going to do is pull that loop out into a bigger loop, and then you're going to cut the yarn which is attached to the ball of wool using a pair of scissors, and then you're going to pass the end through the loop, and then that will stop your stitches from unravelling, and it keeps everything all together and it makes a nice neat edge. You can then sew your ends in so that you can't see them, and that is how to cast on, knit, purl and cast off. I can't wait to see what you're going to make. Happy knitting!